yes, I am doing basket weave, and I will try to do a little demo here, but there's a lot of people who have a better setup than I do, so you may find much better instructions from somebody else, but I will. I'll just show you how I do it. So the important thing to look at when you're doing basket weave is that they say, like if you look at the mono canvas, you'll see that there are some canvas in the weave that will have gone, they made it with over, under, over, under. And so when you have an over, then that's called a pole. And when the over is going east to west, that is called the step. And so they recommend that you basket weave by going up the steps and down the poles. Now, in full transparency, I did basket weave. I learned to needlepoint 30 something years ago, and clearly before the internet. And I never really understood that whole, poles and steps and all of that. And I just did the basket weave as I picked up my canvas, and they have been fine. And there was, I don't think, much of a negative impact. So all of that to say, if you go up and down, if you go up the poles and down the steps, I don't think it's going to make a big difference. But, I try to do it when I realize. So all of that to say, all right, so this is the weave that's on top of this the intersection is going up and down, going north and south. So that's a pole. So you will stitch down the poles, meaning your stitch is always going to go from Mexico to Maine across the intersection. But where you come down is, when you're going down the poles, you will put in your needle to the Maine, Mexico to Maine over that intersection, but you will come down the row below it. And so what happens is, because you are doing these up and down stitches on the back, that's what forms your up and down that makes the basket weave. So then when you get to the bottom of your row, you are going to work your way up by, again, going from Mexico to Maine to make your individual stitch. But I come out the next stitch over. You could, of course, go back and, in and out, which is what most people do. I think if you're on stretchers, you have to go in and out because you can't scoop it. But what I do is just shorthand it, essentially, instead of going in this stitch, by pulling it all the way through and then coming up to the next row over and then pulling it out. What you do with scooping is you just put your needle in where you would go and go ahead and pull it where you're going to come back from the back, and just do it in one motion instead of going in and out, in and out. So all of that to say, you will just work your way up your steps by sewing along, putting your needle in where you would pull it all the way through, and coming out at the next stitch, all in one motion. So I've gotten to the point at the top of my row, and so now I'll start working down the poles and come down the whole row. So when you do that, when you're going down, down the row, you are forming little vertical stitches on the back of your work. So you can see my needle. It's making a little up and down motion on the back of the work. So when I finish this row, then I will start sewing back up the steps on the next row. So you go down a row and then up a row. And when you go up the row, that's when you will form horizontal stitches on the background, on the back side of the work, which then creates the second part of the basket weave. So let me get to the bottom of this row, and then I'll start working my way up, and I'll turn that around. So again, this is where I would go up, go through to the back, but I'm just going to, grab it, and you will see on the back that the stitches are now going horizontally, which makes the second part of the basket weave. You can see my needle in there, as it just took a little bite out of the canvas to go to the next stitch. So that's basket weave as you sew it, rather than going in and out like you do on stretcher bars. Sorry if that was confusing. I know I'm not the best at explaining this, but I think if you look around, you will find people who explain it better than I do. So good luck. I hope you pick it up and enjoy it. Thanks. Have a good night.